Talking about invocations and benedictions. Is it permissible for school officials to include an invocation or benediction on the program for a public school graduation ceremony? No, not if the choice to include prayer on the program is made by school officials. The U.S. Supreme Court overturned a Rhode Island school district's policy allowing principals to invite members of the clergy to give invocations and benedictions at middle school and high school graduations. The court held that the school district's involvement created a state sponsored and state directed religious exercise in a public school. Lee versus Wiseman was that court case. What if the prayer is student initiated? Because the student body or student representatives choose to place the prayer on the program. While relevant court case decisions do not provide a clear answer, Texas law and guidance from the Federal Department of Education indicate that it is possible for school districts to avoid sponsoring student speech at graduation. If student speech is not school-sponsored, the religious speech, including prayer, is not unconstitutional. Students um, are um, covered by the free exercise clause. They have that behind them and for them to practice school prayer at school, such as holding See You at the Pole or FCA meetings, Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Student-initiated graduation prayer approved by Fifth Circuit. Before the U.S. Supreme Court's decisions in Santa Fe, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals held that a school board may permit the graduating senior class, with the advice and counsel of the senior class sponsor, to choose student volunteers to deliver non-sectarian, non-proselytizing invocations and benedictions for the purpose of solemnizing their graduation ceremonies. The students that are chosen to give the benediction, the before or the after ceremony speech, or the invocation, the before ceremony speech, are chosen at random, and they must be students that have honors or are in student council classes or graduating with higher such as distinguished degrees. But what's the bottom line? The bottom line is that the honest answer is no one knows for sure whether students can really give invocations or benedictions at these ceremonies. There is legal risk associated with continuing student-led prayer as a planned part of graduation exercises. On the other hand, there may be legal risk in censoring individual students' independent choices to include religious content, including prayer, at their comments from the podium. TASB recommends that you consult your attorney for further guidance if a school district really wants to know, okay, can we have a student say a prayer at in the invocation or the benediction. Guidelines for invocations and benedictions. The RVAA's model policy requires school districts to state that graduation ceremonies are limited public forums where graduating students who hold a position of honor, such as top graduating students or class officers, student council, may speak. The school may not discriminate against the student who chooses to express a religious viewpoint because of the free exercise clause. A student who is chosen at random but doesn't have another speaking role may speak at the ceremony's beginning, the invocation, and another student may speak at the end, the benediction, for the purposes of marking the opening and closing at the event, honoring the occasion and participants and those in attendance, bringing the audience to order, and focusing the audience on the purpose of the event, a graduation. Time limits are to be set on how long that student that is chosen at random can speak. No discrimination is permitted against religious viewpoints. A written disclaimer must be included in the graduation program, identifying student messages as private speech and not reflective of the school or its officers or employees. The disclaimer is to state that the district refrained from any interaction with student speakers regarding their viewpoints on permissible subjects as set forth in the policy. RVAA's model policy provisions relating to religious speech at graduation are based on a set of guidelines issued some years ago by the U.S. Department of Education. The guidelines provide that where students or other private graduation speakers are selected on the basis of genuinely neutral, even-handed criteria and retain control over the content of their expression, that expression is not attributable to the school and therefore may not be restricted because of its religious or anti-religious content. The guidelines permit the district is to use disclaimers to clarify that such speech reflects the view of the speakers, not the school. Now, it says that there's supposed to be a written disclaimer on the graduation program. I don't remember seeing a written disclaimer at my graduation program. And my question is, I know that at my graduation, the person who gave the benediction and the invocation, both students got their speeches reviewed by teachers and even the principal, because they have to review that to make sure that the student is following even school rules and not talking about things they shouldn't be talking about. It's a ceremony, it's a public ceremony, and it's very formal. And so is they knowingly, by reading that, know if that student is speaking of religion. So does that put that employee, is that employee following the laws, knowingly letting that student give their religious viewpoints or saying a prayer? I mean, they know that it's going to happen. That I have a question about, because that's knowing, because it does say it's the student's choice, but to me it makes it sound like it's the student's choice and the employees or in the administration and the teachers don't know that that's going to be happening. But you do, because you read their speeches and you revise them and edit them to make sure they're grammatically correct too. At football games, because the next topic is it legal to allow prayer before football games in Texas? A school district decides whether to have students deliver a brief invocation or message before football games, and if so, a student has to deliver it. So it is allowed. Supreme Court rules school-sponsored prayer unconstitutional in Santa Fe Independent School District versus Jane Doe. But Justice John Paul Stevens delivered the opinion of the Supreme Court, upholding the decision of the Court of Appeals, saying the simple enactment of this policy with the purpose and perception of school endorsement of school prayer was a constitutional violation. He continues, such a system encourages divisiveness along religious lines and threatens the imposition of coercion upon those students not desiring to participate in a religious exercise, simply by establishing this school-related procedure which entrusts the inherently non-governmental subject of religion to a majoritarian vote. A constitutional violation has occurred. Santa Fe indicates that the court sees nothing special about student-initiated religious conduct when it takes place within a school-sponsored event, absent a showing that a school has truly created some type of open forum for student expression, one that is open to indiscriminate use. by the student body generally. Student-led prayer at any school-sponsored event must be considered unconstitutional. But then it says the school district decides whether to have students deliver a brief invocation or message before football games, and it has to be the student. And I think that goes the same, that the honest answer is no one knows for sure. It's just like with there are so many laws that schools have to follow, but then there are so many court cases. Some agree, some don't. Some agree, some don't. And it depending on what the last decision was is, I guess, what people go by. Even some school boards list invocation in their agenda. And there's See You at the Pole, where students prayer, scripture, and worship. So students are allowed to have religious beliefs and pray at school, as long as they aren't really pushing those beliefs on anybody else. But those conversations do occur amongst students. I mean, those conversations occur in a second grade classroom with me. One kid was going around saying, God isn't real, God isn't real, God isn't real. And another student whose mom plays religious music every day when she picks him up after school, he was really hurt by that. So then he comes up and asks me, Miss Byer, is God real? And how do you answer that? I believe in God. So I not knowing all of this, because this isn't talked about. Administration does not talk to teachers about this stuff. Apparently, there's a ton of stuff that I need to go and look up. Knowing this now, I mean, I don't think I don't know how I would answer that. At the time, I said, yes, I believe in God. But now, knowing this, I don't know. That probably wasn't the right answer. But how do you say, I don't know. But that one's tough. But this is the last 10 minutes of the video of the collaboration with Teresa and Mary.